Good morning. I'm Reverend Pam Geagan from the Center for Spiritual Living Pleasant Valley in Camarillo, California. And this is our Sunday morning broadcast. And I'm really excited this morning to introduce who's going to be with us. And you'll be hearing more about this in just a moment. But the main people are from Lyon, France, and they're broadcasting live on Zoom in France. And I'll tell you who those people are. So I'd like to introduce Reverend Dr. Jim Lockhart, and if he could say hi, and then Dorrianne, Dr. Dorrianne Cotter-Lockard from Lyon, France, and Rev Lynn. Can you say hi, Dorrianne? Can you wave?
Hi.
Okay, yay. And there's also our wonderful Rev Lynn Chaplin-Noe, our wonderful Buzz Noe, and also our wonderful Betty Ann Brennan, our assistant minister, and our Danny Berkman from San Francisco, California, for more musical inspiration. Dorrianne will also be, we'll be hearing a recording. She's a concert violinist. So we have two musicians today, and I'm really grateful for that. So, who we are, our larger vision for Centers for Spiritual Living is awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. And I always want to thank Reverend Betty Ann Brennan, because she was part of creating that wonderful statement. And how we do this is our mission statement. And it is teaching and demonstrating spiritual principles for living an abundant and fulfilling life in a welcoming and compassionate community. And our wonderful Betty Ann also does a quote. But before we do that quote, we're going to talk about our candles of faith. And we believe there is one source, many paths to that source. And whatever you believe, whether you believe in Judaism, Hinduism, Mohammedanism, Christianity, whatever it is, Judaism, we believe that there is that one fine thread that connects all of the religions, and that is love. And all the sages throughout the ages have mentioned that the one thing we all have in common is that passion and that love in the heart that connects all of us worldwide. And that is what we go to in the moments like this during what's happening in America right now and worldwide. So wherever you are in your spiritual path, we're grateful you're with us. I think it's wonderful. And if you are looking for a spiritual path, we hold that space, empty hands, empty heart, so that we can hold you in consciousness too during this time. So now it is my honor to introduce our wonderful assistant minister, Reverend Betty Ann. She always has a quote that supports today's talk. Betty Ann.
I breathe in the divine energy of peace and love. I breathe out the divine energy of forgiveness and healing. Please join me in treatment to become just relaxed and open and ready, and recognize there's one power evolving in all that occurs, knowing just the right thing to do and when to do it. I let go, I give up anything that stands in the way of my own personal becomingness. I must know who I am, and from that I am flows everything. And so I see for us this morning the beauty, the love, the joy, the forgiveness, and the healing that flows from this infinite intelligence, this creative power. And I do give thanks for this. Thanks from all angles. And I just turn these words over to that creative power, knowing the best is yet to come. And we're all getting the best, no matter. Amen. So it is.
Thank you, Betty Ann, so much. And now it is my honor to introduce Dr. Dorrianne Cotter-Lockard, who is so much more than just a concert violinist. She is a professor. She is I would rather have her say what she is when we have her on, maybe as a special guest by herself one time. But here she is, and she's playing Bach, I believe. And so please enjoy. And now it is my joy and honor to introduce Buzz Noe with What's the Buzz? Tell us what's happening, Buzz.
Hello, everyone. My name is Buzz, and here's what's happening for this week of Sunday, June 7th. And here we are in the month of June, and summer will be coming soon. This corona thing doesn't like the heat, so let's all know we've got this thing beat. So here are the announcements for this week to provide the spiritual connection that you seek. Tomorrow morning, beginning at 9, the last session of chakra clearing will shine, because when your chakras are aligned, you have better connection with Spirit Divine. On June 15th, our first live gathering will start from 7 to 9, staying 6 feet apart, as the writers group will gather live with social distancing to help us thrive. A new discussion group will be starting soon on Monday mornings from 10 till noon, discussing a book by Pamella Geagan. This event will get you out of the doldrums. And a reminder to please continue your donation, which you can do now online from any location. Our center, County Rescue, and also Food Share will appreciate anything that shows that you care. And please sign up for Ralph's community contribution to assist in our center's financial solution. And another contribution source is Amazon Smile. So when you spend money, it will add to our files. And a reminder that our center is here for you. So please let us know what we can do to assist you in getting through all this hell with prayers and treatments to keep you well. That's it for the announcements. Thanks again for listening. Enjoy this day with the sun bright and glistening. And if for any reason you're stuck in your room, thank God we can still gather together on Zoom. And now, as always, it's my extreme pleasure to bring you someone who is truly a treasure, Reverend Lynn Chaplin-Noe, our practitioner of the day, who has the ability to make everything okay. Here she is.
Well, okay. Thanks, Buzz. Morning, everybody. Lovely to see you all here, out there. We're all having an experience right now. We're all sharing this moment in time together through our uniqueness. I always say this when I'm practitioner of the day, just to remind us of the unity and the community that is CSL Pleasant Valley, because we know you're all out there and we're holding you in our hearts. So there's one thing that you can do if you want spiritual mind treatment, affirmative prayer, is go on our website and look up the ministers and the dedicated practitioners and choose one or choose one at a time. Schedule a treatment or just a time to talk and express your feelings to us. We're there for you and we love you. And just get to know us, because we'd love to get to know you as well. So usually I do several quotes. The practitioner does several quotes, and then we do treatment. Instead of several quotes, I've decided, and I had so many from Dr. King, of course, but I've decided to just do a portion, just excerpts from something that White Eagle shared on Facebook this week, and it's prescient to the time. And just a few excerpts. If you want the full transcript, you can go on the website and ask for it. So this is from White Eagle. This moment humanity is going through can be seen as a portal or as a hole. The decision to fall into the hole or to go through the portal is up to you. There is a social demand in this crisis, and yes, he calls it a crisis, but there is also a spiritual demand. The two go hand in hand. Without the social dimension, we fall into fanaticism, but without the spiritual dimension, we fall into pessimism and a lack of meaning. You were prepared to go through this crisis. Take your toolbox and use all the tools at your disposal. What world do you want to build for yourself for now? This is what you can do. Serenity in the storm. Calm down and pray every day. Establish a routine to meet the sacred every day. Good things emanate What you emanate now is the most important thing. To sing, dance, resist through art, joy, faith, and love. And that's White Eagle. And if you'd like a transcript of that, let me know. So let's have a centering treatment now. I know Reverend Betty Ann has prepared us for a prayer this morning. So let's have a centering treatment. Please close your eyes. Take a deep breath, as Reverend Betty Ann suggested. Take that deep breath and breathing in love. And in this moment, I'm aware of a presence of love, a presence from which I am guided, I'm directed, I'm enlivened, emboldened. This presence is love, life, God, infinite intelligence. But this presence is the very center of my own being. It's the place perfectly and beautifully when I listen to this guidance, for I am the divine individualized is. And in this moment, this very special moment in time, I wake up, I suit up, I step up, I speak up, I pray up, for this is my moment to create the world that truly does work for everyone, for all life, for nature, for this planet. And I am so grateful for this knowledge, for these truths, this grand truth that expresses itself through me right here and right now. And so I release these truths into the law of mind. I allow mind, the universe, God, creation, to take care of the details, while I enjoy this exquisite, beautiful, peaceful, unified, and loving world that I'm creating in this moment. And together we say, and so it is. And so it is my pleasure to introduce someone that I know intimately, since I gave birth to him, a great musician, Daniel Berkman from San Francisco. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Mom. Thank you.
Oh, Danny, I don't want to come back. I just want you to keep playing. Thank you so much. And we'll see you at the end of when Dr. Jim is off. But thank you so much again for being with us. What a treat. So I am now, it is my honor to introduce our talk. And that talk is, as Spencer puts up the card, it is a spiritual vision in a world untethered. And I made that up and I didn't even tell Jim. So I'm sure it'll all be great, no matter what I say or no matter what I ask him. And I just want to tell you just a little bit about Dr. Lockard. And I had to condense this, there's so much, but he's an ordained minister now for over, I think, 25 years. He's served on the International Board of Directors for Centers for Spiritual Living, on boards of advisory councils, on several nonprofits. He is a pulpit minister, or was a pulpit ministry for over 20 years in Maryland, Florida, and California. And prior to that, he was in law enforcement for 24 years in Maryland and Florida. And he is a teacher, author of Creating the Beloved Community and Awakening to Your Inner Power, a world traveler, counselor, consultant, wine connoisseur, and you can learn more about his spiritual insights in the world on his blog. And he'll be showing that card to you at the end of the service so that you can write down and reach him on Facebook also. And he is also one of the creators of Thank God It's Frida. And that's where he posts on Facebook every Friday for years now, a new unique image of the Mexican artist Frida Kahlo. And so now it is my honor to introduce Reverend Dr. James Lockard from Lyon, France. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. What a wonderful service so far. It's felt really, really wonderful, and the music and the everything. It's just been very joyful to be a part of. It's nice to see everyone.
Oh, it's nice to see you. And again, you've been in my life for a long, long time. You've actually impacted my life more than you know. And there have been times where you have gone through a lot of difficulty, and it was too painful for me to even reach out. And I've always regretted that. I just want you to know I had to build my spiritual maturity to even say that. I was just so heartbroken at different things that you've gone through. And I've also celebrated your joys. So today, what I would like to do in this time is just, dig at your spiritual wisdom. And so I would like to say first, merci beaucoup for being with us very, very much from France. And I want to know the first question I have for you. It's as a spiritual leader, and I am one too, what is the fine line that is that doesn't take us away from our oneness of spiritual truth and yet stay out of political bias, remaining neutral in our personal political opinions and honoring separation of church and state is very difficult at this time. And in the beloved community, you have said a lot in that wonderful book and led group visions on this. Would you speak about that, please?
Yes. Just from a New Thought perspective, which is our family, of religious science and unity and some others. We have a for the most part a history of sort of being enclosed. I kind of envisioned us as sitting in a circle, treating for one another, but leaving the outer world alone. And over the last couple of decades, it seems that with cultural shifts and other things, we've begun to want to turn around and reach out to the world a bit more. And that's begun to happen. When we formed Centers for Spiritual Living as an organization in 2012, the founding documents include that our values will involve spiritually motivated social engagement, that we will engage with the larger world, whether it's, and you say, should we be political? Anything you do is political. Not engaging is political. Silence is a political statement. Now, I know I'm still on that committee, the Spiritually Motivated Social Engagement Committee, and we do things like help prepare statements for the spiritual leader on issues. We just put out one this week on racism. We do things like insist in training spiritual leaders like yourself in how to engage in social justice issues and in how to support good organizations in your local community and the larger community and things like that. I don't think there is a conflict between being in spiritual principle and engaging with the world from those principles. And from time to time, that is going to involve looking like you're taking sides, because sometimes one side is on the right side. And if we pretend that's not the case and we stay silent, we empower those that might be oppressive, that might be doing things that are harmful, and so forth. Pope Francis recently said something. He said, here's how you do it. You pray for the hungry, and then you feed them. You see, so, we say we have to do both. We have to do our spiritual practice. Our spiritual practice is not for the hungry. It's for ourselves to be able to interact and support and serve the hungry from a place of spiritual poise and spiritual realization and compassion. So that when we do engage, we're engaging from our strengths and not our weaknesses. In our own organization and Centers for Spiritual Living, as I've been on this committee now for several years, we haven't resolved how we're going to deal with this kind of thing as a culture. That's still an ongoing conversation. And being religious scientists, I'd say for every two religious scientists, there's 3 opinions. So it's a matter of trying to get everybody sort of at least going in the same direction, but that doesn't mean everyone has to do the same thing. We do need people that are maybe just holding the space, that are doing the spiritual work, because that's what there's to do. And we do need people that know how to engage at the local level and perhaps know how to engage at the regional level or the state level or the national level or the global level. And we have these people. The key is to make sure our engagement is coming from our principles. And our principles are love and oneness and diversity and caring and compassion. So if we show up from that, how can we be doing anything wrong? So my role as an individual is to get clear about that. What is mine to do? There is a Facebook page called "What Is Mine to Do" that it was set up by one of our members who was on the Leadership Council, Tracy Brown, and it's a safe space to go and have conversations about racism and to learn about racism issues, not just between blacks and whites, but for all the ways that racism shows up. And there's some great material there and great, resources. And there's people that you can connect with if you're interested in engaging. So I think we have to outgrow the idea that we have to remain neutral, because neutral can be a negative space. And it does require courage. It does require us stepping out of our comfort zone. But you see, there are so many people in our culture today that don't have the luxury of being in a comfort zone. And that's where you get to the issues of things like privilege and things like, why should I bother? It's not affecting me. And if everyone was just like me, everything would be okay. And that's why we keep having these kinds of incidents like the demonstrations that sometimes turn into riots over and over and over. I was around in 1968 when so many cities burned. I was a police officer and worked crowd control and riot control for a number of years. And, that's not where I want to be. And you'd think we'd learn something as we go, but apparently we haven't learned the lessons necessary so that this becomes part of our past and not part of our future.
Beautifully said. Absolutely. From your book, there were so many great quotes, and one of them was from Howard Thurman, and there are two questions that we have to ask ourselves. The first is, where am I going? And the second is, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you are in trouble. And so I ask you in this, what is it? First of all, thank you for not making people wrong who are like, I don't know what to do about this. We have our heart of hearts, but we are we don't want to be politically correct as spiritual leaders, is what I'm saying also. And so what I just heard is hold that space to see what's unfolding here. This is a two-part question. First of all, what are you doing in France? You're on Facebook, and your posts are so powerful and so thought-provoking and so inspiring. I just want you to know that. But what are you doing in France? And then how is France viewing this unrest, not only in America, but worldwide? Your perception.
Well, let me answer the second question first.
Okay.
There have been demonstrations in Lyon here this weekend. They're very significant size. There was just one this evening, a little bit earlier. And in Paris yesterday, over 1 million people demonstrated against police violence and racism. And there is an issue with police here dealing with racism. And it's not so much black on white, although that's part of it. It's also the large and expanding Muslim community here from the Middle East, and Northern Africa, former French colonies where people have moved here and they're still considered in many places second-class citizens. So, it's not that Europe or France doesn't have racism. It's a slightly different origins, but the outcome is pretty much the same. People are oppressed. They're oppressed economically. They're oppressed socially. They are more likely to be targets of violence from the state, however that shows up. But I would say what most of the people I'm connecting with here are not French natives. We know some, but most of our friends are expats. They're people because I don't speak enough French to really carry on a deep conversation with people yet. But what I do pick up from reading the French media, from talking to people, is they're very concerned about the U.S. because they've always looked to the U.S. for leadership. They've always recognized the U.S. as very powerful. The memories here are long about world wars and things like that. And my sense of what is coming up is they're not making fun of the U.S. They're concerned. They're like, what is going on? It doesn't make sense to us. As far as what I'm doing, I am in semi-retirement. I left pulpit ministry in 2015. And France is the most secular nation on earth. Less than 1% of French people go to church regularly. It's the most secular nation in the world. So, and the churches are mostly owned by the state. So that's the only way they can be supported is through tax dollars and so forth. So you go to church here and there's 2 old ladies from the village and a few tourists, and that's about it. There's just not a lot of attendance. Religion and spirituality are considered very personal issues. They're not something that people bring up in conversation, and they're not comfortable talking about it. So there's a lot of spiritual hunger here, but they're still in a process of huge reject of organized religion. The scandals of the Catholic Church and all of those kinds of things, having 2 world wars here, where all those prayers didn't stop nearly 100 million people from being killed, so you can imagine. However, there are organizations in Europe, like Integral Europe and so forth, that Dorrianne and I are a part of, that we contribute to. We attend their conferences. I'm part of the Spiral Dynamics community worldwide, which is looking at healthy models for cultural evolution and moving forward. I do a lot of work with that. And that was in my book about spiral dynamics. I do coaching for ministers, mostly in the US. And I have private students that we do. We're just finishing next Saturday is our last class. We had 9 months of classes on metaphysical psychology, and they'll be wrapping up next week, and we'll start another group in September. I do my blog for my blog site called New Thought Evolutionary. I'm a regular blogger for the Association of Global New Thought. I'm on the advisory board of Global New Thought. I'm on a couple of committees for CSL. Other than that, I'm not doing anything. But I am at a distance from what's going on in the US, but I am engaged mainly as a kind of a coach, thought leader. Let's take our spiritual principles and see how we can apply them to all of the dynamics going on, from the COVID-19 to the current situation with racism, to the current political divide, to all of the things that are forming what I think is, I'll use Michael Beckwith's wonderful term, it's a birthquake, that something new is being born, something radically new. And in the birth process, there's going to be a whole lot of things that are upset, disturbed, and knocked over. And a lot of us are scared of that. A lot of us are uncomfortable with it. If we're comfortable the way things are, we're resistant to it. But I think that's what we're in a process of massive change, transformational change. And how we manage this as a global population is going to determine whether our future is bright and sustainable or whether our future is not so much.
There is obviously something greater here. I always call it a heaven quake. That heaven were created. It had to be. We had to let go of that which is, so that we could be reborn and create heaven on earth, so to speak. What do you think the larger consciousness is that is opening up for our light to shine in it? And how important is our light to be shining in these times where nobody, it's unprecedented. We with COVID and the riots and the peace marches. I'm going to change that to the peace marches. Tell me what you think is trying to rebirth here in your larger vision.
Yeah, I think what's emerging is the next version of humanity. And it's sort of like, I like to use the analogy of the caterpillar becoming a butterfly. When the caterpillar goes through whatever period of time, it's a caterpillar being a caterpillar. And then one day it gets something that says, start spinning a cocoon and get into it. and turn to goo because it completely deconstructs itself in the cocoon. Now, it doesn't know why it's doing that. It doesn't know what a butterfly is. It's purely on instinct. So the instinct says do that, and it does it. And in the goo, these new cells begin to emerge. They're called imaginal cells. And the imaginal cells are what will become the butterfly. They're the blueprint for the butterfly. But what's left of the old immune system of the butterfly, or of the caterpillar, kills the imaginal cells when they first emerge. But they keep emerging. And if they don't keep emerging, then you just have a dead thing in a chrysalis. But if they keep emerging, eventually the old immune system loses its power and the butterfly is constructed. And one day the chrysalis opens and the butterfly flies away, not knowing what a caterpillar is. So that's transformational change. Transformational change is we're moving into the possibility of a society that operates in ways we could not have imagined because it's not an extension of what we have been. It's something so much more. And as there are imaginal cells, human beings and certain organizations that are actually working to begin to bring this in, and some of the old power structures are trying to rub them out. Just like if you have a bucket full of crabs and the top crab starts to crawl out, by reflex, the crab in the bottom of the bucket pulls the one back in. See? So that's the question we're in right now. We're in this time of turmoil. And the question is, once this turmoil passes, which it will, are we going to revert back to the way it was, meaning the turmoil was for nothing? Are we going to go back to being caterpillars? Or are we going to move into something new that's going to require all of us to make massive changes in how we live our lives? And that's where we are. We're very much in that question. And the good news is it only takes a small percentage of imaginal cells to bring about transformational change. It doesn't take everybody. It doesn't even take a majority.
You know, in this time, we say our thoughts, our energy, our intention especially is so powerful. And how we know that is because we know that COVID is, spread hand by hand and has gone worldwide. And so what you said is if we stay in that pace, in that place of the evolutionary greatness of what we can become and not go back to those old ways that have stifled us so much and kept us small. But if we open up to that oneness, then that's what's going to unfold. So what's our role? Tell us what's our role here, Jim?
Our role as spiritual seekers is to hold the biggest vision we can for ourselves and for the world, and to do our spiritual practice so that we are able to add to that vision and make it more acceptable, believable to us, even though it might be scary. One of my colleagues, Dr. Arlene Bump, talks about going out on the skinny branches, where it doesn't feel safe, but that's where the action is, you see. So are we willing to be stewards of a new possibility, even though we don't know what it's going to look like, and even though it might require us to make some significant shifts in what we've come to expect a normal life to be? And are we willing to support those that are out doing that work, try to find out who they are and support them? And are we willing to support one another through our individual challenges and fears and so forth as we move into these times and move through these times? I see spiritual community, as I said in the book, as a place where people come together in self-care and where you have a safe space to be uncomfortable. Rather than saying, I should never feel uncomfortable here, it's no, I can feel uncomfortable. I can wail and moan and be angry and all that, and I will find a support system that will help me and hold me and envelop me until I regain my center. So can we do that for one another is is I don't think that's something that's beyond us at all. I think it's why spiritual communities came into being. But sometimes we don't like to let anybody know that we're bothered. We don't like to let anybody know that we're sick. So we pretend we aren't, or we stop coming if we don't feel right, because we'll look weak, or we'll look like, we don't belong or something like that. And that's where spiritual leadership has to be so engaged in cultivating an environment where that kind of support can be recognized, offered, and provided by those that are in a place to provide it. And sometimes I may be in that place, and sometimes I may not. So it's sort of like a lot of moving pieces.
In your book, I'm going to say a couple quotes that just match from your book. You said, a spiritual leader's job is to steer their students into the expression of high expression, and also staying in integrity, teaching from a place of radical honesty is essential if a spiritual community is going to survive. And it sounds like not just that this world as a spiritual community is going to survive. You've taken the path of speaking truth to power, so to speak. Do you want to address any of that at all?
Yeah, I tried lying for a big part of my life, and it didn't work.
Oh, wow.
I'm lying to myself, lying to other people so they didn't see my vulnerability or my fears or whatever, pretending to be tougher than I was or smarter than I was or something. Whatever I was being blamed for, I would pretend it wasn't so. And it's exhausting to do that. It's exhausting. And maybe part of it is just getting older, but at some point I began to just say, screw it. If you can't, a mentor in the police department said, if you're any different at work than you are at home, you're killing yourself, because your system cannot hold that together, because one of them is false. And the likelihood is they're both false. So if you can't be radically honest with yourself and others, if you're living the kind of life that keeps you from being honest, then you need to make some significant changes or plan for an early death, is what he told me.
Wow.
I think that's true. I think the science of mind as a philosophy is about learning how to die. And you learn how to die by learning how to live. And people that haven't lived are terrified of dying. And they often have terrible deaths because they're clinging. They're just angry and bitter and whatever, But when you've learned how to live, and you've lived freely and openly and honestly, when it's time to go, you're kind of like, yeah, let's go. I'm ready, because I'm complete here. You can't be complete here when you're living a lie, because our soul will not tolerate our lying to ourselves and others over the course of years and years. It continually drives us crazy. And what do we do? We self-medicate. We take drugs. We drink. We buy a lot of stuff so we can be distracted from dealing with it. And all the unhealthy things that we see in our culture are all the result of not being willing to be honest with self and others. Look how much money you'll save if you can be honest, just that.
Now there's a motivating point. But, I've done a study on people who die, how people live is how they die. And mainly it's matched every single time. Those in torment and untruthfulness with their own selves and those demons within them have usually very tragic deaths. I'm just telling you, or very painful deaths. We can move on though, because I don't want you to leave, but will you come back, please? Sometime.
Sure, I'm in my living room, so I'm here pretty much all the time.
You're a captive audience. I just want to end with just what Ernest Holmes said, and just a couple things. He said, "It makes no difference how deeply seated may be the trouble, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all." And either you wrote that, or Ernest wrote that, I believe, but I'm not sure where I got it. It might have been from your book. Was it from your book? Maybe.
I don't think so, but
Okay.
I'm familiar with that quote, but I don't think it was in my book.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I want to go back to your courage for you to state in the intelligent, compassionate, loving way where you are, who you are, and where you stand in all of this is honest to goodness. It's so affirming for me to become more of who I am beyond all the things like, oh, don't make waves or anything else. And I think about Jesus, and I always see Jesus as the avatar of love. And he didn't get crucified because he was a milquetoast in life.
Right.
Exactly. He wasn't how he manifested what he manifested wasn't wishy-washy. He was crucified for speaking a higher truth from love and compassion so that people could open up to that love of humanity and give us rules and laws. So what do you feel is the next step here? Do you have any how do I say this? Let's just go personal. What is your next step in Lyon? Do you want to stay there? How often do you see your family, and do you want to stay there?
Our plans are to stay here for the foreseeable future. We bought an apartment here, which we love very much, and we feel very at home here. Before COVID, we were traveling. We travel a lot. We get to see our daughters. Our daughters both live on the East Coast, and we would see them a couple times a year. Usually, either they come over here, or we go there. We'll see how this emerges in terms of travel. Our youngest daughter is supposed to come over in September, and we're hoping that she'll be able to make that trip. But I don't know. My life unfold. I used to be one of the ways I got into this teaching that became kind of receptive to it was I was kind of a goal setter, time management person, for a while, and I always had a 6-month plan and a 5-year plan and all that stuff. And then sort of there was a period of time over about 2 or 3 years where my life just sort of became totally unpredictable. And I couldn't make plans because they never lasted. They didn't work, and I'd go in another direction. And I came to say I like that better. So I stopped making long-range plans, and I sort of try to set intention about what I want my life to feel like. Because I don't necessarily know what I want it to look like, but I know what I want it to feel like. And I want to live a good life with good experiences, but be a contributor to whatever I can contribute to. And I think that makes sense for me. Okay, so if I have enough wherewithal to help others, then I can help more. If I take care of myself and make sure that I'm healthy and all the things I need to do so I'm not burning the candle at both ends anymore, it makes me more available and more effective at the things I can do. Now, my wife may want to have a rebuttal statement after this about how wonderful I am, but that's another, give her 5 minutes. But we're all human. I'm not this way all the time. She would probably say, but you haven't seen him empty the dishwasher. But let's be real. We are human beings. We're human beings doing our best to find our way. And the beauty to me of the science of mind is that it has helped me to find my way for 30 years, and it hasn't let me down once. I've let it down a few times, but it hasn't let me down once. And I find incredible value in that.
Oh, I would too. And I just want to tell one joke. Really, I used to say when people said, "Where are you going to be?" like in interviews 5 years from now, I used to want to say, "Remembering the stupid question you asked me."
Yeah.
Who knows where I'm going to be in 5 years from now? Because I always had a free. I could do what I wanted to do. Mainly, I was lucky in my life. I just I don't want to end. Please come back. I'll be in touch. And Angel.
Okay.
All around, and just thank you so much for being here and bringing your courage and your light into this world when we need that spiritual leadership right now, and lead and know that in this process, it just is so. I love that you affirmed wherever you are in this process, you are doing the highest and best, that you know how. It doesn't mean that it's going to stay there. We don't know where we're going to be, as you said, but that we have the permission to go deeper and explore who we are in all of this without feeling guilty because we're not doing the right thing or the wrong thing or whatever. So thank you so much for that. And I just want to thank both of you again for shining your light and courage and faith onto a world that it feels untethered to me sometimes in my more fearful moments. I hate to say fearful, but in my more fearful moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it is, don't go away. We're all going to
Okay.
say goodbye. And Danny's up though. Danny, thank you for hanging in there. We have one more musical instrumental from Danny, if he can be there with us.
Yeah. What's the name of that instrument, by the way?
Oh, I was just about to mention that.
Oh, good. Okay.
This instrument is called the kora. It's a 21-stringed harp lute from West Africa. And actually, there's quite a connection between the music of West Africa and France. Kora is actually quite popular. A lot of kora players. There are kora makers there. So it's fitting that I would play the kora on the day that you're here as well. And yeah. So that leads me to the next piece I'm going to play. The last one I played was called Jalia, which is also West African. So I'm playing all West African stuff today. And right now I'm just going to play something called Kaira, which means peace.
Oh, thank you so much. What a gift you are to the world. I know your music is going worldwide because that's what's needed right now. And for people who want to see you, can they be your friend on Facebook, Danny Berkman? I got it right this time. Berkman, one N.
That's
And
right.
also, you have, is it basecamp.com or
Bandcamp.com. So it's Daniel
Band-
Berkman,
okay.
danielberkman.bandcamp.com, where you
Yes,
can
and
listen
you're
to my recordings.
amazing work with live concerts. Thanks, honey, so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Pam.
And
Thank you,
now,
everybody.
see you soon. And now, Spencer, we are putting up our offertory slide, and you can say this or just read along with us or say it out loud. And it is divine love,
Blesses
and
and
multiply.
multiplies all that I have, all that I give, all that I receive. And so it is. That's the way it is.
And that's the way it is. And I want to show you how you can tithe to not only us. Your sacred donations are more than ever appreciated. And we are looking at coming back in person with all the safety precautions, probably the 1st of July, but our mailing address is CSL Pleasant Valley, 221 East Daly Drive, Suite number 1, Camarillo, California, 93010. And our website is www.csl-pleasantvalley.org. And if you go to our website, you'll find out a lot more about us. So I invite you to visit. And so now, Spencer, but don't go away, anybody. We all want to say goodbye, but there's a song that he is going to play. And again, we are so grateful for Nemo Patel and Daniel Nahmod, who has gifted the world with their songs without any copyright. So this one is their version of We Shall Overcome, which is so fitting today. So Spencer, if you could put that up. Thank you.
It's burning inside, the hurting and the suffering minds, creating anger, fear and pain, suffocating our times. The tougher it gets, the rougher social media cries. But we see to it that we tweeting only negative lines. We're sick and tired of history, but repeating it twice. Greed, anger and violence, clearly stealing our nights. Feeling it tight between the shoulders with a chill in the spine. Pinching myself, waking up, trying to stop the rewind and move forward towards stories, overcoming our fears. Choosing love over hate, praying, trading hugs over tears. There's only one choice, breaking down the walls and repair every broken heart on this planet till there's no longer fear.
Walls can't hold us in. Fear can't keep us down. Love will rise again. Yeah, it's rising right now. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer,
We shall overcome.
every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. Young Gandhi couldn't fathom how to deal with himself when he was thrown off the train and the pain that he felt. Mrs. Parks disrespected, dragged into jail because of the color of her skin, organs, tissues, and cells. One day, a young girl was shot on a bus by a man, a terrorist, part of the Taliban. He said, on this land, you have no right to stand for what you believe in. Girls have no chance here. Well, now, that's just the story of three souls who shook our planet after being down on their knees. And it's not gonna stop. Those seeds have now become trees, and as human beings, we'll keep on digging till we find peace.
Yeah, the cynics always say that nothing ever changes, that human nature's bound to stay the same. But it couldn't be more plain that violence never pays, injustice never stays, it's bound to fade away. What if history awaits? What if today's the day? We already know the way, so let's all lead the way. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer,
We shall overcome.
every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We have just begun.
Gonna make a change, we gotta push much farther.
We shall overcome.
We shall overcome. Come on now.
I will carry on. I will carry on. I will carry on. I will carry on. Long after we're gone, the roots of the tree we plant will be strong.
Yeah, come on. Yep. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday.
Makes me wanna sing now. We shall overcome.
Every time I think it's gonna take much longer,
We shall overcome.
every time I question, am I getting stronger?
We shall overcome someday.
'Cause I'm feeling it deep in my heart.
Deep in my heart,
I do believe.
I do believe.
I do believe.
We shall overcome someday.
Come on, put your hearts together. Here we go. Woo! I knew it. God had a plan for us to do it. To hit rock bottom before we rise and continue. To first learn greed before we learn to be human. To do wrong deeds before we learn to spread beauty. There's always a plan, and now it's time to take a stand for the right of the planet, every woman and man. We ain't gonna stop, only growing our demands for all beings to feel peace in every heart and land. Thank you, Lord, for the strength and the courage to bring us together and keep our souls nourished. These tough times will only drown in our chorus, cause we all believe that the truth is before us. We shall overcome this pain. We shall overcome this day. We pray for love to lead the way.
We shall overcome someday.
We pray for love to lead the way.
Thank you, Reverend Dr. Jim Lockard and Dr. Dorrianne Cotter-Lockard, for your generosity of time and also for your donation. They asked that their compensation for today be donated to the Science of Mind Archives, which we support also. And then behind the scenes, thank you, Spencer and Marcia. And I just want to end with Laissez le bouton rouler. Merci. Au revoir. Let the good times roll. And now everybody could do an out. Dr. Jim and Dr. Dorrianne.
Okay. Au
wave the-
revoir. Merci beaucoup.
Au revoir.
Bonne journée.
Buzz and Lynn, are you there? Or are they
They're here.
Okay.
Bonsoir. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Auf Deutsch, auf Wiedersehen.
And Betty Ann, are you there?
Goodbye.
And Daniel, honey, can you say goodbye?
Adios, gracias.
The international
The
show.
international.
And every
That's
one of
right.
you, God is the presence and the power. See you next week. Catch us on Facebook, Center for Spiritual Living, Pleasant Valley. Peace out.